Who is Donald Trump? Origins, family, and early life. Introduction. The man behind the name. Few modern figures have polarized public opinion and commanded the spotlight quite like Donald John Trump. To some, he is a bold disruptor, a self-made billionaire who shattered political norms. To others, he is a master of spectacle, a man whose blend of fame, wealth, and controversy has shaped the cultural and political landscape in unpredictable ways. But beyond the headlines, memes, sound bites, and slogans like "Make America Great Again," who really is Donald Trump? Where did he come from? What formed the man who would become the 45th President of the United States? To understand Donald Trump, we have to go back, before The Apprentice, before Trump Tower, and even before the casinos and controversies, to the very beginning. Chapter 1. The Trump Family Legacy. Donald Trump was born on June 14, 1946, in the borough of Queens, New York City. He was the fourth of 5 children, born to Fred C. Trump and Mary Ann McLeod Trump. But the Trump story doesn't begin in Queens. It begins across the Atlantic. Fred Trump, the real estate tycoon, Father Donald's father, Frederick Christ Trump, was born in the Bronx in 1905 to German immigrants. Fred Trump wasn't just any real estate developer. He was a hard-working, shrewd, and ambitious builder who made a fortune constructing low-cost housing for middle-income Americans in the New York area during and after the Great Depression. Fred built thousands of homes in Brooklyn, Queens, and Staten Island, often using federal programs like the FHA to expand his empire. He was known for his attention to detail, his reluctance to take major risks, and his no-nonsense business style, traits that would, paradoxically, both influence and contrast with his son's flamboyant, high-risk approach. What many don't know is that Fred Trump was once investigated by the U.S. Senate for profiting too heavily from government contracts. An early taste of controversy in the Trump family. Mary Ann McLeod Trump, the immigrant mother. Donald's mother, Mary Ann, had a very different background. She was born in Tong, a small fishing village on the Isle of Lewis in Scotland's Outer Hebrides. She emigrated to the United States in 1930, reportedly with just $50 and a dream of a better life. She met Fred at a dance in New York and married him in 1936. Mary Ann maintained her Scottish accent throughout her life and was known to be more reserved and traditional than her son would become. This blend of German pragmatism and Scottish austerity deeply influenced Donald's early worldview. A privileged yet disciplined childhood. Growing up in the wealthy enclave of Jamaica Estates in Queens, Donald Trump had access to more privileges than most children. His home was a 23-room Tudor-style mansion, complete with chauffeured cars and private schools. But Fred Trump didn't believe in spoiling his children. He instilled a strong sense of discipline and work ethic. In fact, Fred would sometimes take young Donald to construction sites to teach him about real estate, money, and negotiation. The troublemaker years. According to family and school accounts, Donald was strong-willed, competitive, and brash, even as a child. By the time he reached his early teens, he had developed a reputation for being rebellious and aggressive. In one revealing anecdote, Donald reportedly punched his music teacher in the face, an incident that led to a critical decision. At age 13, his parents sent him away to the New York Military Academy, NYMA, the making of a leader at NYMA. At NYMA, a strict, all-boys military boarding school, Trump was immersed in a world of discipline, hierarchy, and order, and rather than resenting it, Donald thrived. He quickly rose through the ranks, becoming a student leader and captain of the baseball team. He also showed early signs of charisma and ambition. Fellow cadets described him as commanding, confident, and focused on winning, whether in sports, academics, or leadership. Interestingly, Trump later claimed that Neumann taught him two vital things: how to be tough and how to handle pressure. Lessons he would claim were more valuable than anything learned in college. College years, Fordham and Wharton. After graduating from NYMA in 1964, Donald Trump enrolled at Fordham University, a Jesuit school in the Bronx, but he quickly set his sights higher. In 1966, after just 2 years at Fordham, he transferred to the Wharton School of Finance at the University of Pennsylvania, one of the few schools at the time offering a real estate major. He graduated in 1968 with a Bachelor of Science in Economics. Though many believe he excelled academically, there's little evidence that he was an honors student. Still, Trump later branded himself as having gone to the best business school in the world, reinforcing the image of being a top-tier business mind. Dodging the Vietnam War. One of the more controversial elements of Trump's early life involves his military draft status during the Vietnam War. Between 1964 and 1972, Donald received 5 draft deferments, 4 for education and 1 for a medical condition, bone spurs in his heels. This later became a hot political topic. Critics accused Trump of draft dodging, especially since he often spoke so publicly in support of military strength. Trump claimed the condition was real, but he couldn't recall which doctor diagnosed it. Years later, a podiatrist's daughters claimed their father diagnosed Trump as a favor to Fred Trump, though this remains unproven. Entering the family business. After college, Donald returned to New York and joined his father's business, Elizabeth Trump and Son. But he had bigger dreams. While Fred specialized in modest housing in outer boroughs, Donald wanted Manhattan, the center of wealth, glitz, and skyscrapers. He convinced his father to lend him a large sum. Trump would later say it was just a small loan of $1 million to expand the business into the high-stakes world of Manhattan real estate. This marked a turning point. Trump took the lessons from Fred: negotiation, efficiency, cost control, and merged them with his own flair for branding, risk-taking, and media attention. The Trump persona begins to take shape. Even in his 20s, Trump understood the power of image. He often wore expensive suits, drove luxury cars, and moved in elite social circles. He made sure journalists knew who he was and what he was doing, even before he had built anything major. In fact, long before fake news became his political buzzword, Trump was calling reporters, sometimes using fake names like John Barron or John Miller, to pitch stories about how rich, powerful, and attractive he was. These tactics were strange, but effective. The press started covering him as the new face of New York business. He even began dating models and actresses, including a brief romance with Candice Bergen, who later said he was wearing a 3-piece burgundy suit and burgundy patent leather loafers. I couldn't take him seriously. But Donald was just getting started. The Commodore Hotel deal. Trump's first major real estate win was the Commodore Hotel, a dilapidated building near Grand Central Terminal. In 1976, Trump saw an opportunity others didn't. He would partner with the Hyatt hotel chain, strike a tax deal with the city, and revamp the property into the Grand Hyatt New York. This deal was historic. Trump didn't just renovate a hotel. He redefined how private developers could partner with the government. It also launched him into the Manhattan real estate elite. At just 30 years old, Donald Trump was now more than Fred Trump's son. He was becoming a brand. Trump Tower and the rise of the mogul. The next big leap was Trump Tower, built on Fifth Avenue in the early 1980s. The building was everything Donald stood for: gold, glass, luxury, and visibility. Celebrities lived there. The lobby became a tourist attraction. His office sat on the 26th floor, decorated with marble, mirrors, and a floor-to-ceiling view of Central Park. The building wasn't just real estate, it was a symbol. Trump Tower established the Trump name as a luxury brand, a theme he would later monetize through hotels, casinos, clothing, steaks, water, and even a now-defunct airline. Who is Donald Trump? Fall, fame, and the road to the White House. Chapter 11. The Casino King, Atlantic City Dreams. By the mid-1880s, Donald Trump had conquered Manhattan and set his sights on a new playground, Atlantic City, New Jersey. At the time, Atlantic City was undergoing a casino boom, and Trump jumped in head first. He acquired several casinos. Trump Plaza opened in 1984, Trump Castle, 1985, Trump Taj Mahal, 1990, the most lavish of them all. The Taj Mahal alone cost over $1 billion and was promoted as the eighth wonder of the world. It had 4,000 slot machines and was, at the time, the largest casino on Earth. Trump became a flashy symbol of the American casino industry, rubbing shoulders with celebrities, hosting boxing matches, and appearing constantly in the media. But the reality was more complicated. The casinos were built on heavy debt, high interest, and risky financing. By the early 1990s, Trump's casino empire began to crumble. Bankruptcy and business trouble. Between 1991 and 2009, companies owned by Trump filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy 6 times. These bankruptcies allowed him to reorganize debt, but tarnished his image as a flawless businessman. Among the most significant was the Trump Taj Mahal, which couldn't generate enough revenue to cover its enormous costs. By the mid-1990s, Trump had lost much of his control over the casinos. He had sold his yacht, and his airline Forbes reported his net worth at less than $500 million, far lower than the billionaire branding he promoted. But Trump's greatest skill wasn't necessarily making money, it was surviving failure and spinning the story. He continued to sell himself as a master of deals, regardless of the actual numbers. In his own words, "It's very possible that I could be the first presidential candidate to run and make money on it," reinventing the brand. Despite his financial issues, Trump stayed in the public eye. How? He turned himself into a celebrity brand. Trump licensed his name to a wide variety of products and properties. Trump Steaks, Trump Water, Trump University, Trump Airlines, Trump Magazine, Trump Vodka, Trump-branded real estate in Turkey, India, and the Philippines. What most people didn't realize: Trump didn't own all these businesses. He just sold the Trump name, often collecting fees for licensing or promotional appearances. The Trump Organization was now more about brand building than construction. In a way, he became a living logo, like the McDonald's arches or the Nike swoosh. You might not trust him to build your building, but you'd pay to slap his name on it. The Apprentice, a cultural phenomenon. In 2004, Trump partnered with NBC and reality TV king Mark Burnett to launch The Apprentice. Each week, contestants competed for a job in the Trump Organization, facing business challenges and boardroom firings. The show introduced 2 iconic catchphrases: "You're fired," "The art of the deal." It was a massive success. At its peak, The Apprentice drew over 20 million viewers per episode and catapulted Trump into a new level of celebrity. The series made Trump a household name among younger Americans, a figure associated with power, success, and blunt leadership, a reinvented brand icon, less of a businessman, more of a boss archetype. What few viewers knew was that by this time, much of Trump's actual business empire had been scaled back. His wealth came increasingly from entertainment, not real estate. Even so, NBC reportedly paid him $1 million per episode in later seasons. This image of Trump as the ultimate decision-maker, bold, sharp, unapologetic, would later become central to his political persona. Trump and the media, frenemies forever. Trump was always obsessed with the media. From the 1980s onward, he regularly called tabloids with tips about himself, sometimes using fake names. Dated actresses and models gave interviews filled with outlandish, headline-grabbing quotes, encouraged gossip columns and late-night jokes about his wealth and lifestyle. But by the 2000s, he became a full-fledged media creature, appearing on Howard Stern, WWE Wrestling. He even hosted WrestleMania and shaved Vince McMahon's head, SNL multiple times, talk shows and cable news interviews, commercials, and roast specials. He played the game of fame better than almost anyone, and he learned a critical lesson. Controversy equals attention, and attention equals influence. The birther movement. One of Trump's most controversial media roles before politics was his promotion of the birther conspiracy theory. In 2011, Trump began publicly questioning whether Barack Obama was truly born in the United States. Despite Obama releasing his birth certificate, Trump continued pressing the issue, gaining enormous media coverage and support among certain conservative circles. This moment marked a pivot. Trump went from celebrity businessman to political figure, aligning himself with right-wing distrust of government and tapping into growing anti-establishment sentiment. The birther campaign was widely condemned as racist and baseless, but it worked in one sense. It made Trump a serious voice in conservative media, flirting with politics. Again and again, Trump had teased presidential runs for decades. In 1988, he considered running as a Republican. In 2000, he launched an exploratory campaign with the Reform Party. In 2012, he teased a campaign but ultimately backed out. In each case, people thought he wasn't serious. His bombastic style, lack of policy experience, and constant self-promotion made him seem more like a sideshow than a candidate. But 2015 changed everything. The 2015 announcement, a shock to the system. On June 16, 2015, Donald Trump descended the golden escalator at Trump Tower and made a stunning announcement. He was officially running for President of the United States. What followed was one of the most controversial campaign launch speeches in modern history. He said, "When Mexico sends its people, they're not sending their best. They're bringing drugs, they're bringing crime, they're rapists. And some, I assume, are good people." The backlash was immediate. Networks dropped Trump. Celebrities condemned him. Major brands, like Macy's, cut ties. But something else happened too. Millions of Americans took notice, and many agreed with him. His campaign focused on themes like America First, anti-immigration, anti-globalism law and order, drain the swamp, anti-corruption in Washington, build the wall on the US-Mexico border. He also promised to ban Muslims from entering the US until we can figure out what the hell is going on. It was political dynamite, and it worked. The 2016 Republican primary, chaos and domination. At first, few in the Republican establishment took Trump seriously. He was up against political veterans like Jeb Bush, Marco Rubio, Ted Cruz, Chris Christie, John Kasich, but Trump bulldozed through the competition by mocking opponents with nicknames Low Energy Jeb, Lion Ted, dominating media coverage with shocking soundbites, using Twitter as a direct weapon of influence, breaking traditional campaign rules, no polling, no data science, just instinct and stagecraft. In July 2016, he won the Republican nomination. Many still believed Hillary Clinton would easily defeat him. They were wrong. The general election, Clinton versus Trump. The 2016 general election became one of the most bitter and bizarre campaigns in U.S. history. Hillary Clinton, former First Lady, Senator, and Secretary of State, was widely expected to win. She had political experience, big donors, and a massive campaign infrastructure. Trump, on the other hand, had no political background, constantly made offensive or false statements, faced over a dozen allegations of sexual misconduct, had just been caught on the Access Hollywood tape saying, "When you're a star, they let you do it. Grab 'em by the pussy." Yet he remained resilient, attacking the media, riling up massive crowds, and speaking directly to the frustrations of working-class Americans in swing states. He portrayed Clinton as corrupt, elitist, and weak. His rallies were electric. His support among rural, white, and evangelical voters was unmatched. November 8, 2016. The upset election night was a shock. Despite losing the popular vote by nearly 3 million, Donald Trump won the Electoral College thanks to narrow victories in key states like Michigan, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania. He became the 45th President of the United States, stunning pollsters, analysts, and the world. Trump had done what almost no one thought was possible. He had gone from a bankrupt casino mogul and reality TV host to the most powerful man on earth. Who is Donald Trump? The presidential years and political chaos. The early days of the Trump presidency, when Donald Trump was inaugurated on January 20th, 2017. His tone was anything but traditional. In his inaugural speech, he declared, "This American carnage stops right here and stops right now." It was a dark and populist message, contrasting sharply with the usual themes of unity and optimism. Trump portrayed the country as a failed state, overrun by crime, globalism, and forgotten workers, and himself as the savior. His inner circle included a mix of business people, hard-right ideologues, and military generals. Notably, Steve Bannon, his chief strategist, a former executive at Breitbart News, Michael Flynn, national security advisor, who would resign within weeks, Jared Kushner and Ivanka Trump, given advisory roles, Reince Priebus, former RNC chairman, as chief of staff from day one. Trump's administration faced heavy resistance from the media, the Democratic Party, and even from factions within the Republican establishment. Executive orders and the Muslim ban. One of Trump's first major moves was a travel ban targeting citizens from several Muslim-majority countries. The stated goal was to prevent terrorism, but critics called it a Muslim ban and accused it of violating religious freedom and basic human rights. Protests erupted in airports across the country. The ban was challenged in courts, blocked, revised, and eventually upheld by the Supreme Court in 2018 in a narrower form. This episode revealed a recurring theme in Trump's presidency: bold, controversial actions that thrilled his base and enraged his critics. The media wars. No president in modern history has fought the press like Donald Trump. He coined the term fake news to describe critical coverage and labeled major networks like CNN, NBC, and the New York Times as the enemy of the people. He tweeted obsessively, attacking journalists, celebrities, opponents, and even members of his own cabinet. By the end of his first year, he had tweeted over 2,000 times, often making or breaking news cycles in 280 characters. While many criticized his combative style, Trump used these media fights to maintain dominance over the news cycle and energize his supporters. The Mueller investigation and Russia scandal. One of the defining controversies of Trump's presidency was the Russia investigation. In 2016, U.S. intelligence agencies concluded that Russia interfered in the election to help Trump win. This led to the appointment of special counsel Robert Mueller, who investigated possible collusion between the Trump campaign and Russia, Trump's attempts to obstruct justice by firing FBI Director James Comey. The investigation lasted nearly 2 years. In 2019, Mueller released his report. It found no conclusive evidence of criminal conspiracy between Trump and Russia. Multiple examples of Trump attempting to interfere with the investigation. While Trump claimed total vindication, critics argued he narrowly avoided obstruction charges thanks to Justice Department rules that prevented indicting a sitting president. North Korea and unorthodox diplomacy. Trump's foreign policy style was radically different. He was unpredictable, confrontational, and often broke with decades of tradition. His most eyebrow-raising move, meeting with North Korean dictator Kim Jong-un. In 2018, Trump became the first sitting U.S. president to meet a North Korean leader. The two held a historic summit in Singapore, followed by a second summit in Hanoi. They exchanged personal letters, praised each other publicly, and even walked across the DMZ together. Though no concrete denuclearization deal was reached, Trump claimed success. Critics argued the summits gave legitimacy to a brutal regime with little in return. Immigration battles and the border wall. Trump's signature campaign promise was to build a wall on the U.S.-Mexico border and have Mexico pay for it. In office, he ordered the construction of hundreds of miles of border barriers, declared a national emergency to redirect military funds for the wall, enforced a controversial zero-tolerance policy that separated children from parents at the border. The images of kids in cages sparked international outrage. While portions of the wall were built or replaced, Mexico never paid for it, and immigration issues remained deeply divisive. Tax cuts, deregulation, and the economy. In 2017, Trump signed the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, the most significant tax overhaul in decades. The bill slashed corporate tax rates from 35% to 21%. Reduced taxes for many individuals, though the cuts would expire. Repealed the individual mandate of Obamacare. Offered significant benefits to the wealthy and corporations. Trump also rolled back hundreds of federal regulations in areas like the environment, labor, and finance. A move praised by business groups but criticized by environmentalists. The U.S. economy saw strong growth in 2018 to 2019, with record low unemployment, though wage growth remained stagnant for many workers. Impeachment number 1. Ukraine scandal. In late 2019, Trump faced his first impeachment. The scandal centered on a phone call where Trump asked Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky to investigate Joe Biden and his son Hunter while withholding military aid. Democrats claimed this was a quid pro quo, leveraging U.S. foreign policy for personal political gain. The House of Representatives voted to impeach Trump for abuse of power and obstruction of Congress. But the Republican-controlled Senate acquitted him in early 2020, along mostly party lines. This marked only the third presidential impeachment in U.S. history. COVID-19, a global crisis. In 2020, Trump's presidency was overtaken by the COVID-19 pandemic, a historic global crisis that would define his final year in office. Initially downplaying the virus, Trump said, "It's going to disappear. One day, it's like a miracle. It will disappear." But the virus didn't disappear. By mid-2020, the US had the highest number of cases and deaths in the world. Trump promoted unproven treatments like hydroxychloroquine, suggested injecting disinfectant during a press briefing, wore a mask only occasionally, frequently clashed with Dr. Anthony Fauci and health officials, blamed China and dubbed it the China virus or Kung flu. His administration launched Operation Warp Speed, helping to fast-track vaccine development. But critics said his messaging was chaotic and often politicized. Racial protests and national unrest. In the summer of 2020, following the murder of George Floyd, protests erupted across the US and the world. Trump's response was controversial. He called protesters thugs, threatened military action, cleared demonstrators with tear gas for a photo op with a Bible in front of St. John's Church in D.C. He positioned himself as the law and order president, but critics saw him as fueling division during a national reckoning on race. The 2020 election, Trump versus Biden. Despite a pandemic, recession, and nationwide unrest, Trump remained a formidable political force. His opponent, Joe Biden, ran on a platform of normalcy, unity, and science-based leadership. Trump campaigned relentlessly, holding massive rallies even as COVID-19 raged. He mocked masks, insulted opponents, and claimed the election would be rigged. On November 3, 2020, Biden won both the popular vote and the Electoral College. Trump refused to concede. The big lie and election denial. After losing the election, Trump launched a months-long campaign claiming the vote was stolen, despite no evidence of widespread fraud. Dozens of court cases being thrown out. State officials from both parties certifying results. He pressured Georgia officials to find votes, and his legal team, led by Rudy Giuliani, pushed bizarre conspiracy theories about voting machines and international plots. This movement, known as the Stop the Steal campaign, culminated in the most dangerous moment of his presidency, January 6, 2021. The Capitol insurrection. On the day Congress was to certify Biden's win, Trump held a rally near the White House. He told supporters, "If you don't fight like hell, you're not going to have a country anymore." Thousands of his followers marched to the Capitol. What followed was a violent insurrection, the first attack on the U.S. Capitol since 1814. Rioters smashed windows, assaulted police, and hunted lawmakers. 5 people died. Trump waited hours before telling them to go home, saying, "We love you, you're very special." The world watched in horror. Trump was soon banned from Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, a stunning move against a sitting president. Impeachment number 2 and post-presidency. On January 13, 2021, Trump became the first president in U.S. history to be impeached twice, this time for incitement of insurrection. Once again, the Senate acquitted him, though 7 Republicans broke ranks to vote for conviction. After leaving office, Trump retreated to Mar-a-Lago, his resort in Florida, but made it clear he wasn't done. He launched a PAC, endorsed candidates, and held rallies, teasing a comeback. Who is Donald Trump? Legacy, Comeback, and the Trump Movement. Life after the presidency, Mar-a-Lago and Reinvention. After leaving the White House on January 20th, 2021, Donald Trump did not attend Joe Biden's inauguration, becoming the first outgoing president to skip the event since Andrew Johnson in 1869. Instead, Trump flew to Mar-a-Lago, his lavish private club in Palm Beach, Florida, and entered a new phase of his life. Ex-president, political kingmaker, and populist icon. In his first speech after leaving office, he declared, "The incredible journey we began together is far from over." Unlike most former presidents who fade into quiet retirement, Trump ramped up his public appearances, holding campaign-style rallies, endorsing candidates, and continuing to push the narrative that the 2020 election was stolen. His post-presidency became an extension of his political movement. The rise of Trumpism. Even outside the Oval Office, Trumpism, his distinct style of politics, remained dominant within the Republican Party. Core tenets of Trumpism include nationalism over globalism, populist rhetoric, anti-elite, anti-media, anti-bureaucracy, America first foreign policy, aggressive immigration policies, a combative tone toward critics, total loyalty from party members. Trump's influence could be seen in the way Republican politicians shifted their tone and priorities. Many who once criticized him either left politics or embraced his brand of conservatism. Legal storm clouds. After leaving office, Trump faced a barrage of legal challenges, many of them unprecedented for a former U.S. president. 1. Classified documents case. Trump was found to have taken hundreds of classified documents to Mar-a-Lago. The FBI raided his estate in 2022, a historic first. He was later indicted by federal prosecutors for mishandling national security materials, obstruction, and making false statements. 2. Election interference in Georgia. A special grand jury in Georgia investigated Trump's attempt to pressure Secretary of State Brad Raffensperger to find 11,780 votes. Trump was later indicted under RICO racketeering laws alongside several allies. 3. Stormy Daniels hush money case. Trump became the first U.S. president to face criminal charges when indicted in New York for falsifying business records to cover up a hush money payment to adult film actress Stormy Daniels. 4th, civil lawsuits and investigations. He also faced civil trials, including a defamation and sexual abuse case filed by journalist E. Jean Carroll, in which he was found liable, a massive fraud lawsuit from the New York Attorney General alleging Trump inflated the value of assets to deceive banks and insurers. Despite all of this, Trump's base remained remarkably loyal, many viewing these charges as proof that the establishment was trying to silence him. The social media pivot. After being banned from Twitter and Facebook, Trump launched his own platform, Truth Social. The platform became his primary megaphone, where he continued, repeating claims that the 2020 election was stolen, attacking judges, prosecutors, and journalists, endorsing political allies, laying the groundwork for a return. In 2023, Elon Musk reinstated Trump's Twitter account, but Trump remained mostly active on Truth Social, now a key part of his media empire. Kingmaker in the midterms. In the 2022 midterm elections, Trump endorsed over 200 Republican candidates, many of them far-right or election-denying figures. Some won, many lost. In high-profile races, like in Pennsylvania, Arizona, and Georgia, Trump-backed candidates were defeated, leading to Republican underperformance nationally. This caused a temporary dip in Trump's influence. Critics in the party whispered that Trump was costing them elections, but the base still adored him. The 2024 presidential campaign. In November 2022, Trump announced, "In order to make America great and glorious again, I am tonight announcing my candidacy for President of the United States." This set the stage for a 2024 rematch with Joe Biden, a battle with historic implications. Despite legal indictments, financial investigations, and growing political divisions, Trump became the Republican frontrunner almost instantly. His rivals included Ron DeSantis, governor of Florida, Nikki Haley, former UN ambassador Vivek Ramaswamy, entrepreneur Chris Christie, former NJ governor and vocal Trump critic. But Trump's command of the base and his ability to dominate media coverage kept him far ahead in polls and primaries. What few know behind the curtain. While much of Trump's life is public, there are lesser-known aspects that reveal more about the man behind the brand. He doesn't drink alcohol. Trump is a lifelong teetotaler, largely due to the tragic death of his older brother, Fred Trump Jr., who died from alcoholism in 1981. Donald frequently cites Fred's death as a reason he avoids drinking entirely. He's a germaphobe. Trump has long been described as a germaphobe. He reportedly dislikes shaking hands and has a strong preference for cleanliness and order in personal spaces. He loves fast food. During his presidency, Trump often ate McDonald's, KFC, and Diet Coke. He reportedly preferred fast food because it was safe, prepared in standardized, clean conditions. He was inspired by Norman Vincent Peale. Trump attended Marble Collegiate Church, where Rev. Norman Vincent Peale preached the power of positive thinking. This philosophy shaped Trump's relentless optimism and refusal to acknowledge failure. He wrote letters to world leaders. Trump exchanged letters with Kim Jong-un, calling them love letters. He also reportedly had warm and controversial relationships with Vladimir Putin and Mohammed bin Salman. Legacy: a nation transformed. Love him or loathe him, Donald Trump changed America forever. His impact includes shifting the Overton window, normalizing rhetoric once considered fringe, redefining the Republican Party from a pro-business, traditional party to a populist, nationalist movement, making celebrity a form of political currency. Trump proved that fame could be power, elevating conspiracy culture. From birtherism to QAnon, eroding trust in institutions, press, DOJ, FBI, courts, rallying the rural and white working class, many of whom felt ignored by elites. To supporters, he is a political messiah. To critics, he is a dangerous demagogue. To historians, he's a once-in-a-century phenomenon. The Trump family dynasty. Trump's legacy may continue through his children. Donald Trump Jr., a popular speaker at conservative rallies. Ivanka Trump, once seen as a centrist influencer, now quieter. Eric Trump, executive VP at the Trump Organization. Tiffany Trump, keeps a lower profile. Barron Trump, the youngest, still mostly out of the public spotlight. It's possible that future generations of Trumps will run for office, ensuring the family's continued relevance in American life. The man, the myth, the mirror. Donald Trump is more than a businessman or a politician. He is a mirror reflecting the hopes, fears, divisions, and contradictions of modern America. He's the billionaire who connects with the working class, the rule breaker who ran for law and order, the anti-elite populist who lived in a gold-plated penthouse, the outsider who took over the most powerful institution in the world. He has been described as a cult of personality, a political meteor, a threat to democracy, a voice for the forgotten. a media genius, and a walking contradiction. Whether he wins or loses in the years ahead, Donald J. Trump will remain one of the most consequential figures of the 21st century. Final words. Who is Donald Trump? He is a man of ambition, controversy, resilience, and spectacle. Someone who rewrote the rules and forced a nation to choose sides. As his story continues to unfold, one thing remains certain. He's not done yet.